Yay!
Yay!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live. Happy Monday. Tonight's Monday is a very special Monday because it is
Candy.
it's Halloween. Our favorite holiday, as you can tell. I am Kimberly Toshima Newberry.
I'm the Ginger Runner.
Our costumes are on point tonight.
I think you do that all the time.
That's basically how I do all my reviews and everything. It's a travel day for us. We would love to have put on costumes, but our costumes that we got this weekend for our race are soaking wet and covered in mud. We'll talk all about that. And we have no costumes in home that we had the ability to put together in a matter of seconds. We literally walked in the door before.
Just walked in the door.
That being said, we'll talk all about everything. And we'll throw 1,000 excuses at you in tonight's episode, where we get to recap our wonderful experience at the Carkeek 12-hour, which is our first experience doing anything like it. We're going to talk all about it on tonight's show. So thank you guys for being patient with the technical difficulties up front. We're super stoked for a Halloween episode. Episode number 140 of Ginger Runner Live begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! Happy Halloween, everybody. I figured I'd just throw the little screaming goblin in there every once in a while. Hopefully you're watching with your children. We wanted to do the show. What?
You just scared my mom.
Probably. Is she in the chat room?
She's not in the chat room, but
she's probably at home
watching.
like, I quit. No more. That's my son-in-law.
Close.
It is Halloween. We wanted to do the show a little bit earlier tonight. For those of you who have family that you want to take out and go get candy, go for it. Or if you're on the East Coast or in another country that doesn't celebrate Halloween or something like that. Hi. We're a little bit early tonight. Happy Halloween, first and foremost. This weekend, we got to do something very fun and kind of in the spirit of Halloween, get to dress up and stuff like that. Both Kim and myself got to do something that we've never done before.
We got loopy.
We talked a bit about it on last week's episode with our good friend Andy Pearson. We're going to actually mention him on tonight's show. He might be tuning in. I'm not sure, Andy, if you are tuning in, maybe we can actually get you to come on air with us again, and you can read your wonderful poems that you did. Text me, email me, or message me so my phone can see it. That way we can get you on, just because we walked in the door so last minute.
Yes.
We got loopy. So it was both Kim and mine's first experience running a loop-based race. You are given a 12-hour time limit to run a 1.9-mile loop as many times as you can. What's different from other 12-hour, 24-hour, 48-hour type races is that this one had 450-ish feet of gain per loop. That's 450 feet of gain per 1.9 miles.
Yes. And
on paper, you're like, well, that's not bad. You know, I have a hill in my backyard that I run that's 490 feet. We're going to talk all about tonight why it's hard. Because the simplest way to put it is hard.
I was gonna watch you talk. It's really magical tonight.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on point. I've got the travel brain, which is mush, plus the 12-hour race brain, which is more mush. Plus it's Halloween, and we have spirits that are visiting, and you never know when they're gonna pop up. I'm sorry, I don't know where the volume levels are at. So I know my volume has been really loud. Like my mic has been really loud in past episodes, like in the past couple weeks. So I try to turn this down, and then when you hear that scream, I'm sure it's just I'm sorry if I'm deafening you. Before we even get into the race and Kim's experience and my experience, we have to point out that a lot happened this weekend and last week in just the sport of running and ultra running. A huge shout out to Pete Kostelnick, who ran across the United States of America faster than anyone in history.
So crazy.
We're going to try to get him on a future episode. I'm actually going to reach out to him this week now that we're back in Los Angeles. I'm going to reach out and see if we can get him on an episode soon, because I am fascinated by this. Fascinated by the ability to run such a great distance, 3,000 plus miles to cross the United States. Not just flat and straight, over mountains, countless amounts of weather variations. And it's nutty. I believe it was from San Francisco to Washington, D.C., or maybe New York.
Somebody will probably correct you.
Someone will correct me in the chat room, which I'm sure is going to happen, but we're going to bring him on the show hopefully soon. We have mutual friends, so I'm going to try to get through the walls of PR to get him on the show, which I think would be a really wonderful episode. Also, a huge shout out to everyone. We have lots of friends that were out in the middle of the desert, suffering through crazy heat at the Javelina 100. Our good friend Jamil Curry puts on that race, and all his crew at Aravaipa Running. It's apparently a huge party out in the desert, and we have yet to experience it firsthand, but we've talked about it on the show multiple times. And this weekend was Javelina. The only reason we weren't out there is because we had the race up in Washington. We wanted to try something a little bit different and new, and we'll definitely be at Javelina next year, just because it's such an awesome race. And a huge congratulations to Zach Bitter, the overall winner and new course record holder.
Fast.
13 hours and 30 minutes to run 100 miles in 100 plus degree temps, I guess.
Just to be clear, that's like an hour and a half faster than I ran my first 50 miler. Or an hour fast longer than I ran.
Yeah, we did the math on that. And I was like, well, my fastest 100K was Quicksilver. Granted, it has tons of elevation. I hurt all day, 14 hours and 9 minutes or something like that. He finished 100 miles 30 minutes faster than that.
That's crazy.
I just can't fathom. And all the videos that were kind of coming through on Facebook and stuff of him running, he has a very unique form. Like you see Jim Walmsley, and his form is, that picture perfect gazelle, long legs. And Zach Bitter is also a big guy, like tall, real skinny, but he's just like power. It's all power. Very impressive. We'll have to have him on an episode here soon too.
So fast.
Can't believe we haven't had Zach on before, because he holds a number of records and stuff and all sorts of distances. So we'll have to get him on the show as well. All right. So also a big shout out to those of you who raced or did some cool event this weekend. I got a lot of messages from people mentioning that they had a race or maybe their first 50K and stuff like that. We might even have some in the chat room. So big shout out to you. And if you did some cool accomplishment this weekend, let us know in the chat room. So those who are watching can also give you some accolades. And well deserved.
We did also see some of you out on the course on Saturday. So big shout out to all of you guys that were out there. And Elaine, I don't know if you're watching, but we shared some loops together, and it was fun. Yeah, fun chatting and actually connecting face to face.
Elaine's been a big supporter of the channel, everything that we've been doing here, Patreon, and everything, and she's always on the live show chat room at some point. And so, Elaine, big shout out to you. It sounds like she had a fantastic race. She loved it. It was really cool to read her post. So, Elaine, if you are watching, jump in here and
she might be trick or treating.
You know what? She might be trick or treating. Yeah. Some of our regulars who would come here may be out trick-or-treating, because you know what? I'd be out there getting candy.
You should go.
Okay, we'll see you guys. No, we've already had so many technical difficulties. We might as well do the show. Okay. First of all, a huge thank you to Endless Trails for putting on this event that we're about to talk about. The event is the Carkeek 12-hour. We didn't really know what to expect with this race, right?
Yeah. It was something totally new to us. I think so. First and foremost, shout out to Endless Trails, which is Matt and Carrie Ann, and this particular race. And I think, actually, I'm not 100%, but I think all of the Endless Trails are nonprofit races. So any cost beyond the cost of what it costs to put on the race goes to the Northwest Trail Association, I believe. So basically, if you're registering for these races, you're giving back to a really good cause, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So shout out to you guys for putting on a race that not only is awesome, but is also a fundraiser.
Yeah, it's for a good cause. And they did a really cool thing too, where if you brought food or brought something that could be at the aid station, you would get a discount on your entry too, which is great. So you're giving back and they're giving back. And it was really cool. Unique experience. So basically we kind of did the brief description of what it is. It's fairly simple in concept. It's a 1.9 mile loop with 450-ish feet of gain. Some watches read a little bit less. Strava tends to read a little bit more. I actually tend to think it's even more than what either of them.
I feel like it was like a 10-mile loop.
Yeah, it's gnarly. But it's in a beautiful park in Seattle, Washington, called Carkeek. In all my years of living in Seattle, I had never seen, or I didn't even know Carkeek existed. There's parks South of it, Golden Gardens, Discovery Park, some big parks where I have run or done campfires or hung out at. But Carkeek is a real unique, it's like lush woods that just like with valleys that just go right out to the ocean. There's a train track between the forest and the ocean right there along the water, but it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Also, I want to remind everyone, if you are watching and you have any questions during the course of the show,
ask away.
Ask away. Yeah, Kim's obviously keeping an eye on the chat room as always, and we'll talk about nutrition and gear and all that kind of stuff as we go along. But if you have anything that you want to ask or a story of your own from your races this weekend, please jump into the chat room.
Yep.
Kim will make sure to relay that. So that's the description of the race. The aid station is just along the lowest point of the course, which is right near the water.
Pretty much the only flat.
The only flat. There was a section that I called the Carkeek Speedway, which is as you come down the descent, there's a long concrete road, and it's maybe 1/10 of a mile long, so it's not long at all. But there's a porta potty at the end of it. I called that the Speedway because it was the only place you could run.
That was the one place I promised myself I would run it
every
time, regardless.
Yeah.
I did it.
So as I mentioned, our guest from last week, Andy Pearson, did a similar race. If you haven't seen last week's episode, I encourage you to go watch it. I thought the timing was good to have him on the show because he had just finished Big's Backyard Ultra, which is another loop-based course put on by the race director of the Barkley Marathons. And so I wanted to bring him on the show and kind of get some advice because this was our first loop-based thing. The 1.9 mile loop, and you're basically doing it as many times as you can do it within 12 hours. That has some certain things that go along with it that are different than a regular ultra, where it's a point A to point B over 30 miles or 50 miles or something, or even a giant lollipop for 50 miles. This one is a tiny little micro loop in comparison that you do over and over and over and over again. So I kind of picked his brain on the show, and his major piece of advice, and he gave us this advice almost every day up to the day before the race, which is be consistent. It wasn't about worrying about how many miles you're going to get or how much time you had left. He's like, don't do the math because the math is just going to make you mad or upset. He's like, just be consistent. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I kind of understand what that means. I'll just take that note and be like, yeah, I'll just be consistent. And as it turned out, that was the best advice I could have gotten was just the consistency. And I'll talk a little bit about that on the show. Did you have any feelings going into this race as far as, were you nervous about it? Was it going to be a fun time? Were you less anxious compared to other races because it was loop based?
Yeah, so I briefly talked about it before that since Sun Mountain 50 miler, I've kind of been in this weird yo-yo phase of like feeling really motivated about running and feeling really unmotivated about running.
Right.
And so the reason why I personally picked this race is just because it was something totally different and something totally new. So for me going into this race, it was more of like I'm just going to go and relax and have a good time.
Yeah.
See some friends, run some loops. I just wanted to do something different. Why?
Why what? You wanted to do something different?
Yes. So I don't like that. That's bothering me more than it's bothering anybody in the chat room.
Because Kim can like just see it. She can't hear it. So all Kim sees is just this little face pop up on my window, which is down here.
But it catches the corner of my eye. It's just like, ugh.
Complete alarm.
Anyways. So yeah, I felt pretty relaxed going into this race. I think, obviously the night before we were trying to get settled in, and then you're counting down to like, oh, I'm only going to get this amount of sleep, and oh, how is tomorrow going to go? And I haven't been running a lot, so I really wasn't too sure. I had a few goals in mind, but kind of went into it with an open mind and open heart and just went with it.
Yeah.
Tried to have a good time. Yeah.
That's, I think, one of the benefits to something like this is knowing that the aid station is only 1.9 miles away from you. Basically, it's only 1 mile away from you. If you really needed to get to an aid station, you could turn around. But at any given point, the furthest you'll ever be from it is 1 mile. So for me, there's just like, man, this is all you have to do is just like put your head down and move forward. You don't have to worry about putting in food on a regular basis because you'll have it there. You don't necessarily have to carry water with you because you're only, X minutes away from an aid station. Or the aid station. So yeah, I felt like there was all this other stress that's associated with longer ultras or bigger races just gone because it wasn't even an issue. So that's a benefit. And it was also almost a detriment because then you start setting higher expectations for yourself. Like for me, I was going into this race going, I'm looking at the elevation gain, and if I do X number of miles, that'll put me at 10 to 12,000 feet of gain compared to other, let's say my goal was 50 miles. I was like, 50 miles should be easy. Maybe I'll even have an extra hour or two to try to log in as many miles in pain as possible after 50. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, 50 miles, you average, let's say 500 feet of gain. That's what, 12,000-ish feet of, I'm doing the math terribly on the spot. I should not have done this to myself. But if it's 50 miles, 5 times 5, 25 divided by 2, 12,500.
I didn't hear anything you just said.
I don't know what the new math is called, but whatever it is bad. 12,500 feet of gain or something like that. I was like, okay, well, I've run other 50 miles that have had a lot of gain. So maybe my time will be comparable. So I ran North Face, not last year, but the year before in 10 hours, for example, 10 hours and X amount of minutes. I think it was also 9 minutes. And that has like 11,000, almost 12,000 feet of gain or something gnarly. I was like, I ran that in 10 hours. That gives me 2 extra hours to add some more miles. I've done 100 Ks in 14 hours, reduce a couple hours. Let's take 10
You're
miles
doing full on calculations.
Yeah, yes. So the week going into this race, I was doing all the calculations. I was like, I should be fine. And I talked to a friend who, Gary Robbins' wife, actually. I was talking to her, Linda Barton Robbins. She's fantastic. She will give it to you straight. She
is a straight shooter.
Straight shooter. She's run so many ultras, highly seasoned. And I remember talking to her going, so my goal is 50 miles. I'd really love to get 50 miles. She just goes, you won't. I was like, well, I haven't been training. I get that I haven't really been training hard for long distance, but I think I could like suffer through. No. She was really hard about it. Just like, it's just not going to happen. And I was like, oh, okay, well, okay. So I like slink away from the conversation, and the whole week I'm just going, what did she mean by no? Like, why would someone, a friend of mine, tell me no? And it was because the reality is a handful of people have ever gone over 50. And so I didn't know this. I pulled
up Ultra Sign Up and I started going through. I'm like, well, so-and-so ran 58 miles and so-and-so ran 52 miles. So, just get a different, I guess, perspective on it.
Common Core math is what Julie asked. Common Core. The record is 63 miles or something like that.
Something like that.
In my mind, I was like, it's probably 70, 75 miles, 12 hours. There's got to be, someone that's just crushing it out there. The record is 63 miles, I think, and that's Adam Huey, I believe, still has it. It should be on the top performances.
That is the 6 hour.
Oh, that's the 6 hour.
I don't know why it's pulling up.
You might only, pull up the 6 hour. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room. Oh, what's up? Danucci's in the chat room. What's up, Chris Danucci?
64.77, Adam Huey.
Adam Huey, a Seattle. This is a guy that we've had him on the show very briefly before, but he's a Cascade Masters record holder, just badass, complete monster of a runner. Has 64-ish miles or something like that. So when you start seeing the results, you realize that there's very few people that actually get over 50 miles.
Yeah.
And that sort of dawned on me like, oh, maybe this is harder than I thought. But the math just wasn't. I was like, well, how is that possible that the mathematics work out to where you should be around this time? It's not like the course is more technical. It is actually a bit more technical.
It's muddy.
It was really muddy. So you have those other factors. But here's where it gets you. It's a loop-based course where you run the same 1.9 miles as many times as you can.
And as much as the aid station is amazing, I also found myself just kind of lollygagging.
Yeah. You think about a regular ultra that you run, a 50 miler, the aid stations are anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe more or less, miles apart.
Right.
So you have these long gaps of time where you are moving forward without stopping. Even if you're walking, you're still moving forward. You're rarely sitting down and just stopping, tying your shoes, checking your watch. And if you are, it's going to be short-lived because you're in the middle of a race. So you take into account the fact that you're seeing an aid station every 20 to 30 minutes. There's a lot more stopping. Minutes. Yeah, or 40 minutes or even an hour. You're still seeing and stopping more frequently than you would in any other race.
And even if they're quick stops, they add up over
Completely.
12 hours. Question in the chat room from Pete Kresak. What was it about this course that was so difficult? So I know like some people are probably looking at the 12-hour time duration and thinking the way you were kind of doing your math.
Completely naive.
It's actually a lot of gain for 1.9 miles. So, you know, it's not flat. It's not just little rollers throughout the whole thing.
And it's not 450 feet up and 450 feet down.
Right.
It actually has 3 climbs.
I would say 3 major.
The first one, which I ended up calling Stupid Hill. The second one, which I ended up calling Widowmaker in my mind for some reason, because it just was always like, just wanted to die. And the last one, which I called Stairway to Heaven, because as soon as you got to the top, there's a sharp left turn that took you straight down to the to the bottom of Stupid Hill, because you'd basically just restart the whole thing. You can go look at our Strava. By the way, this race is on our Strava, so you can see it looks like a heartbeat because it's just the same thing over and over. But you can see where the hills are and the grades and stuff like that if you really want to get detailed and stuff.
Yeah, so that is one component of what makes it hard. I think having the aid station there every 2 miles also adds to the difficulty. You know, it's what we just said, and the fact that it's a loop, the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it challenging. But there's a mental game in here, which comes into play. There's a quick question about what the beer is. I'm drinking Nectar IPA. It just happened to be in the fridge because we haven't been here for much
I don't know where this is, what this is, or where it came from, but I'm drinking it.
Oasis Red Ale. I think that might have come from a viewer.
No, I think this might have come from Mom, maybe.
Oh, that is from my mom. Yeah. My mom got me a craft beer of the month, and this is, I think, the last remaining one. Oasis.
Brian in the chat room says maybe also the urge to stop more often, eating and drinking more than you actually need. Yeah, so the urge to stop more often, especially at the aid station, was huge for me. I had to keep finding myself going, okay, I need to get out of here. Because then you're there's friends there and you're chatting and you're looking at all the Halloween candy.
It's an awesome vibe. Like, because you're on such a small course, there are people, like the other runners, you either pass them or they're passing you fairly frequently up until a point. There actually came a point where I felt almost 6 loops in a row. I didn't see a single person, which is
I had some
really interesting and unique.
I thought for some reason the race
had ended,
and I thought everybody was like at the aid station, just partying, and I didn't see anybody for so long.
Don't tell Kim. I totally agree. It was really interesting in that effect. So Kim, how did your day go?
So I guess we should start.
Do you have a lot of questions? Actually,
we do have
a lot of some questions. Let's do some questions, and we'll talk about your race.
Tadashi asked, "Did y'all take naps at all? Poo or pee breaks?"
Let's just get into it, Tadashi. Let's just first question: did you take a nap? No naps.
No naps.
But this race has like a really great community of locals that come out and run it. And we, like, as we're running the first couple loops, I was running with a guy that's like, yeah, I've done this a number of times. And I always like to do 3 loops and then go to my car and nap for an hour. Apparently that's a fairly common thing, is to take a nap break, because you start at 6 a.m. And if you're doing pitch black, there's not a lot of light. So if you're out there doing 12 hours, why not take a nap? Why not take an hour-long break? Some people, there's people that are out there to compete, and there's people out there that have fun and to eat candy. So, and as far as poo and pee breaks,
like every loop,
man. No. Oh yeah, just get that started.
There's facilities at the aid station, and then one
like real facilities. I didn't know that. I used the porta potty in the middle of the woods, like on my 3rd lap. Got it done. Never had to use it again.
Do you want to take some more questions?
Yeah, let's do one more, and then we'll talk about your race. I want people to know like what it was like.
Yeah. Little of Life asks, being short loops, did you pack a lot of gear or go light and replenish at the aid stations?
Great question.
Go ahead.
So you can have 2 directions with this. Because the loop is so short, you can either go super light, like hyper light, like carry nothing, and just use the aid station on every loop. Or you can do, some people did this, if you are going to try to be as efficient as possible, you can just carry your pack with a certain number of hours worth of nutrition, hydration, stuff like that, so you don't have to stop. So I kind of went in the middle, and I just did a handheld that had a high concentration of tailwind that allowed me to go a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours, without having to stop. That's not how it always played out, though, because you run by the aid station, and usually what happens on a loop is you go, oh, maybe I should stop and change my jacket.
Or I'm standing going, hi.
Oh, Kim's there. Oh, hey. And you'll go over and say hi to Kim.
He came in twice.
Our friends joined. Yeah. I had people that came out and ran with me for a couple of loops.
That were there. Yeah.
So it was a matter of, you could be as focused as you wanted to be, really. So you could pack, multiple hours of calories and just not stop. Or you could get kind of sucked into just something, even if it was as little as the one time that I stopped and I was really mad at myself for stopping was when I just changed a jacket because it was pouring.
Yeah.
And I was wearing for 6 hours the same, it was a light Solomon jacket, super light, but it was just soaked. And I was like, I should go get my waterproof jacket because the rain's not letting up. And I took the time to go stop in the, like I didn't have to because I had all my calories, and I stopped to change the jacket. The sun came out one loop later, and in my mind I go, why did you even stop to change your jacket? It's like you just beat yourself up a little bit. But good question. We'll probably talk even more on that.
Yeah, and I just went a very small handheld flask, and very, very minimal as far as nutrition and water. And I stopped at the aid station. The only time I didn't stop at the aid station was between lap 1 and lap 2 when it was dark.
Right.
And I think I was too scared I was going to get lost if I didn't keep staying in the staying behind somebody. So I just kept going. So
I want to talk about your race, babe. How did the first few loops go for you?
Yeah, so we got there in the morning. Race started at 6 a.m. for the 12-hour start. And it was actually, the weather was okay. Mm-hmm. It was not raining, which was a huge bonus. Yep. And they're just like, it's super low key and it's such a good vibe there that I didn't even get, before the race starts and you're lining up at the start line and you get the heart palpitations and you get all excited and stressed. Mm-hmm. There was none of that.
Not at all.
So the race started, and this was my first time running a race with a headlamp, oddly enough. I've paced you with a headlamp before, mm-hmm. but it was my first in the dark experience on my own, essentially. The first couple of laps were fun in the dark, and I overheated really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. So between lap 2 and lap 3, I went into the aid station, took my jacket off, took my long sleeve off, and was down to my tank top, and off I go. And not 10, 15 minutes into that lap, rain started falling.
Yep. And didn't let up.
It did not stop for hours and hours and hours. But I will say that this was probably one of my favorite race experiences. I just had a good time all day. I didn't put pressure on myself. And you go into this race, and I think one of my biggest concerns was that I was going to get bored of doing the same loop over and over again. And there was just a question from CTAM79. Did you get to switch directions for any loops? No. It was all counterclockwise.
Yes, they do. They do the same race in the spring, and it's called the Cottontail, and they do the reverse, and I believe it's at night. I think it's called the Cottontail Starlight Run. So I think they do it.
I think you're mixing up. I think the Starlight is something different.
Oh,
but maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe it's the same. I didn't even know, but I heard other people talking about, like, oh, I did Cottontail last year. I did Cottontail, which is, it's a spring version, and they run the opposite direction. I do know that.
Yes.
Whether it's day or night, I don't know. Go check it out. Definitely worth it. So that's coming up in the spring.
Yes.
But yeah, as far as like, you wouldn't get to choose directions. They do have a short loop. So once the sun came up, they allowed you to run. It was a little half-mile loop. But it was
0.54 miles.
0.54?
Yeah.
And it's 0.25 up and 0.26 or 29 down or something, whatever it is. It's not any easier, and it's a lot shorter. So you could just do like little blips. I never ran that. I only did the big loop. You ended up running a little bit of the shorter loop.
I ran 4 short loops at the end of the day.
But that's it. So they have you go counterclockwise the whole time. Yeah. When did it get hard for you?
So it's so weird. I think everything that we assumed would be either problematic or bother us about this particular race didn't really be it wasn't problematic, and things didn't really bother us. For myself, like I was saying, I was worried I was gonna get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get bored all day
at all.
The trail had enough unique things that it was kind of, you know, interesting to look at things differently, because then you're in the dark and then you're in the rain, and then finally in the afternoon the sun came out and then it was getting to sunset. So there's all these different elements at play. I did have a few loops, I feel like later in the day, maybe like around mile 23, 24, something like that, where I felt lonely, which is what I was just talking about. And because throughout the day I'd kind of run with different people on and off, and you see people out there with their dogs and hiking, and I felt like I had a long period of time where I didn't see anybody. And I don't know if I was getting loopy at that point, but I was like, everybody's gone. I'm the only dumb out here looping still. So I had a little bit of that. I had a little bit of like feeling lonely. And then I guess, and my only other kind of down moment was in that torrential downpour. So I changed into a different jacket just before you did, because your waterproof was still in the bag. I got really, really cold at that point. Like my hands were freezing, and I was wet through my first rain jacket, and I was just worried that was going to be how the day went. I was like, if I'm this cold now, it's going to be a big problem hours from now. So that was pretty much my downs that I had.
And you ended up running the entire time, pretty much.
Running, hiking, yeah. Yep.
And what would you say your lowest point was when you were cold? Did you ever bonk? Did you ever run into any like, I'm done?
No. So it was really weird, because early in the day, I think we were maybe 2 hours and a little bit in, and I remember looking at my watch, and I think this is right when the sun was coming up and it started raining. I was like, how am I going to do this for 10 more hours? Even if I'm hiking this, how am I going to keep hiking this for 10 more hours? Because at that point, my quads and my glutes were already like, what are you doing? Like, this is hard. So that was a bit of a problem, but that went away really, really quickly. And the whole day kind of, I don't know, it just, something happened in the forest. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to call it a unique experience.
Yeah.
And there's no other way, because we're first timers in this sort of experience, a 12-hour, do as many loops as you can sort of thing. It's the only word to describe it is unique. Because it's not like running a 50-mile race. By the way, this was Kim's second longest run ever.
It turned out to be that way.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I never actually looked at this as being an ultra for myself, because I didn't have any expectations of what was going to happen. Yeah,
you've kind of taken some time off from big training. You've been running every week, but rather than doing big, huge runs and back-to-backs and stuff, you've just kind of been focusing on running for you.
Yeah.
And so you didn't have any expectations just going into this like, I want to get 48 miles or whatever.
The only point that it actually dawned on me that it could potentially be a bigger mileage day is when we were buying our nutrition. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm out there for this many hours, you know, spending this much energy, I'm going to need, and I kind of looked down my nutrition and went, wow, like,
I hope I have enough.
This is a lot, or I hope I have enough.
Right.
Yeah. That was the only moment that it kind of clicked that this could be an ultra day.
Question in the chat room from Brian Frollo. Was there a med tent or podiatry team on site? And if so, did you use either? There was only that one aid station.
Yeah.
I don't think they had a medic on site, but there are plenty of experienced people that would know how to deal with certain things.
And I think there was a nurse that was either volunteering or running the race that happened to help another runner that got taken away by crutches.
You're right. There was an ankle roll.
Yeah.
Whether she was running or if she was volunteering. Regardless, you are in the city, so you're not remote. If for any reason there's some sort of medical emergency or something, you are within very close proximity, not only to your car, but to people with cars that would take you to whatever center that you needed. That being said, I mean, it's kind of, I'm guessing it's going to be more self-care. So if you have blister issues, it's going to be more take care of yourself. But you're also surrounded by people who have probably dealt with blister issues countless times, just being a part of the ultra community.
I had like a minor foot thing about halfway through the day. I guess around mile 20 is when I actually took care of it, but I had a foot issue and I had to walk to the car, and I went and checked out my feet and changed my shoes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And every volunteer that's there is also knowledgeable and fully experienced and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't have any blister issues. I had definitely like foot pain after running for 12 hours, but yeah, I never needed to stop for anything like that. But you also have your car right there in the parking lot. So you could always grab your car key and go access your car for any sort of like, if you needed to make a Starbucks run, I'm sure they would allow it as long as you're not tracking the mileage, but you could probably go get Starbucks and come back and go do some more loops. I mean, it's that sort of casual, like just get what you can get done, you know?
Yeah. There's a question from Richard Reed in the chat room. What was your fuel strategy? What did you eat? How many calories per hour? So for myself, I just did my usual honey stinger gummies, the chews. And in normal race scenario, I'd do 250 to 300 calories per hour. But because I felt like my output wasn't as high, I did maybe 200 calories per hour, water, and then some aid station food.
Yeah, I'm on the same sort of plan, anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. And for me, it was liquid-based stuff. I wanted to try just doing a denser Tailwind formula. And it was really intense on the palate. Like Tailwind's already pretty intense on the palate. But because I know in a colder climate, and especially a rainy climate, I don't drink a lot of water. And the more water I drink, it actually puts me into that overhydration, the hypo...
Like bloaty.
Yeah, it does not agree with me if I drink too much water on a cold or wet day. So I try to limit all my water intake to being like half of what I would on a California day. So I just basically doubled my bottles, or a single bottle had double the concentration, and I could just sip it for every 2 to 3 hours, and not have to change it out. And that worked out great. And if I got to like hour 3 and I still had a little bit in the bottle, I would just dump it out and start fresh.
Reset.
That way the math worked out to be on even hours. And actually how it turned out for me was my mile or my loops almost timed out to be like perfectly coinciding with an easy number to remember. So I could refill the bottle or eat calories on specific intervals, as opposed to, it's 6 hours and 12 minutes and 33 seconds. In 30 minutes, I should do, I didn't have to do any of that math.
I had easy math to do.
I had easy math to do, which was really helpful. So you kept running. You basically went all day. The sun came out. Did things start to turn around for you?
So I kind of was having that foot pain that I was telling you guys about, and I ended up switching into new shoes. And I think that's the first time I've switched. It's the first time I've switched shoes in a race. And it was like really refreshing. I felt like I had brand new feet all of a sudden. So I switched shoes when I came in after mile 20. Felt really good. And then the sun came out, and that was another kind of refresh of, this is amazing. This actually feels good. I can't believe I'm already at hour 10 or whatever it was at that point. And the rest of the day just kind of felt good. And like I said, I don't know why, but the time really was ticking by. The loops were just ticking by without any kind of like, I don't know, stress or worry or wonder at that point. I think once I got past, the 6 hour mark, it wasn't like, I have 5 more hours. It was like 5 more hours.
You're counting down at that point because you're on the other side.
Yes.
So you can just begin to count down like, only 1 more hour.
Yeah.
Oh, like that equals like 3 more loops or 5 more loops or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you ended up with?
I think I did 17 full loops and 4 short loops.
That's awesome.
Which gave me about.
Sorry.
Oh.
that was my phone beeping on my computer.
So I got about.
I don't actually need these in.
I know. I got 36 miles. I think my official was a little bit less than that, but according to my watch, it was about 36.1 miles, which is my second longest run.
Which is amazing because as people who deal with anxiety on a fairly regular basis, and especially in running scenarios, races primarily, you had nothing. You had no worries. You got to enjoy your entire day. Every time I saw you, you were smiling or like, my shoes, I just changed my shoes, so hopefully that helps. Or, like you were so focused and dialed. And by the end of the day, when I found out that you had stopped, and then Matt and Carrie, who put on the race. I was going to say that. Like what happened at the end of the day. Yeah, that's what I think is also really kind of key to your day.
So once the loop started ticking off, and I was like, well, maybe I'm actually going to get a 50K day today. This might actually happen. Okay, I'm going to try and shoot to get that taken care of today. I roll in, my watch read like 31.8 miles or something.
Ooh, so I said 50K. Woo.
So I said to Matt and Carrie, I'm like, I'm done. I got my 50K. I can feel good about that. And Matt's like, well, you know, we only kind of count it as like a technically a 50K if you do 17 full loops. And at this point, I was kind of like, I was feeling a little done. And I'd walked that whole last loop, like alone.
You were like mentally checked out, just like, I'm walking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt's like, well, you know, we only really counted if it's 17 full loops. So, you know, and so I kind of went, bye. I took off.
Yeah.
And then when I got back from that, he's like, you have some time to do some little loops. Why don't you go check out that short loop course? And I was like, I don't think I need to see that today. And he's like, well, you have, you know, like it was 50 minutes or 40 minutes or something at that point. I ended up doing 3 of those and getting back with 20 minutes or something to spare before the time cut off. And then our good friends, Justin and Destiny, who ran the 6-hour, they rolled in, and Matt goes to them, you guys should really see the short loop. Kim, why don't you take them and show them the short loop? It's really hard to say no to Matt. He's pretty convincing.
He's so nice about it. Well, just go. It's really cool.
Just show him. It's just right up there. So I took Justin and Destiny, and I feel like Destiny was into it, and Justin was kind of like, why are we doing this?
That's great.
But yes, so that was my day. It felt good.
36.1.
I think 36.1.
It's on your Strava.
It's on Strava.
Go check out Kim's Strava. But yes, yay! Second longest run, rock solid with like not minimal training. You ran.
You'll see my Strava.
Yeah, go look at her Strava. But like,
I don't advise that.
But it's proof. I mean, I haven't been training for huge distances right now. I'm training for just other things, mind, body. I haven't, you know, basically with the injury this summer, I haven't been training for any like big 100 or something because it just wasn't possible. This was a great race for me to kind of test the knee back out, and I'm happy to say that it survived. But it's the same sort of thing. Like we can plan into 2017, but you just crushed your second longest distance with a kind of a base mileage, but also just mental confidence and strength that proves that you're fully capable of doing these sort of distances continuously. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. Yay!
And you got to eat all the candy.
Yes, I didn't eat as much candy as I had planned on eating.
I didn't either. In my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to have candy every lab. It's going to be great. I'll be able to carry pieces along.
I think because it was so wet and so cold, I didn't want to open packages.
Yeah. Yeah, but they had the best candy too, like the Laffy Taffy and all that stuff, Skittles. As far as my race went, it was, again, unique. It's a really interesting thing that your mind does when you are running the same loop. I have to commend Endless Trails for choosing a loop that is not boring, because I think a boring loop can wear on your mind. But this one had really good flow. Like there were really challenging climbs that just like you just were angry, but they would be over by the time you were really mad.
Yeah.
So you could start to run down, but then you'd be mad like, oh, I don't want to run down. I'm tired. But then it would kind of
hurt.
It would kind of flatten out and then kind of go through a roller and then go up another climb where you have to kind of power hike. But there's always something unique to look at. There's lots of stuff kind of hidden in the woods that you can look at and see new things. How this went down for me just from the beginning to the end. At the beginning, the first 2 laps I used purely as experience laps. It was in the dark. I knew I wasn't going to be able to see all the features around me and like name things, you know. That people
it was
talk
a little
about.
tricky in the dark because
tricky.
there was like some roots and stairs, holes.
The death hole. There's lots of stuff on the course that you just kind of had to watch out for. So my first 2 loops, I feel like I was going pretty conservatively. I knew I had plenty of hours to regain any time that maybe I'd lose in those first 2 loops. So I took my time and just waited for the sun to rise before I actually got into any sort of rhythm. And as the sun finally rose, oh, actually before that, by the way, I did 3 Facebook Lives during the course of the race. So there are moments that you can actually watch and listen to me while I run. Those are on facebook.com/thegingerrunner. I'm not going to show them during this live stream because they're already there. So go check those out if you want to kind of catch some of the live moments. The first live moment.
I'm sorry, you're boring Gus. He's snoring.
Our dog is snoring. He is just too damn adorable. We've missed him so much. We finally get him back. while we were on our trip.
And
He is enjoying his bed right now. So the first live stream that I did was in the dark still, so you can go watch that. Also, this is when our good friend Andy Pearson started to write poems, a la Laz from the Barkley Marathons, as he did for Big's Backyard Ultra. The first poem Andy wrote was "Ginger Runner runs, Loop 2 becomes familiar. He's naming rocks now." A haiku for the Ginger Runner. There's only a couple of these, so don't worry, I won't be reading them all night. I would love it if Andy could read them. I think he's not watching because he's probably out collecting treats.
He's probably trick-or-treating
right, trick-or-treating in Tennessee. Okay, so the first 2 hours, essentially the first few loops for me before the sun actually began to rise, were fine. Like I was just kind of getting into the rhythm, just feeling it out. There were still runners that were, within distance and stuff like that. People were kind of finding their paces. And then by, I think, loop 6 or 7, which is maybe the second or third after the sun started to come up and I could see, that was my lowest point. For some reason, I had this really low point early on where I was playing games with myself to drop down to the 6 hour. Because you're at that point at like 3 hours into it where you're going, my legs aren't really strong. I don't feel the energy. I'm not, like, nothing's clicking. It's pouring down rain. It's muddy. The trail's going to get worse. You have 9 hours to go. You have friends coming in the afternoon to run with you, but screw it. I'd rather hang out with them than run with them and put them through this. I'm going to find a way to cancel at 6 hours. So I started to play that game as I was going through the loop for, I think, like the 6th time or something, hour 2 or 3. And I did one loop where I was just really, like, sad, basically. I felt lonely. Like, there were the runners at that point had worked out their pace where everyone was just kind of moving almost at the exact same rate around the loop. So no one passed, no one caught up. It was interesting when that happened. It happened both because there's a 6 hour AM and a 6 hour PM. And I feel like it happened in both of those races.
It took us a long time to see each other
for the first time.
But
and even after the first time.
Yeah.
Took loops.
Yeah.
But then after doing that loop and feeling sorry for myself, I just like didn't even stop at the aid station. I remember just going through and telling myself going into that aid station, don't stop, just start Stupid Hill again, which is the first hill. And I did, and things started to get better. Like my nutrition kind of started to click in and things started to feel better. And for some reason, I got excited about doing the loop more. I got excited about picking out those things that I started to name on the first couple of loops. Hobbit Tree, which is the picture I posted on Instagram. Death Hole, Speedway, all these little things that I had kind of worked up little nicknames for because I knew that would help me. I looked forward to getting to them. And that basically happened all day. And I started to play little bets with myself, like, oh, get to hour 11. And if you can get to hour 5, 11 a.m., get to hour 5. And then in that hour, see if you can either finish the loop before the 12 o'clock starters would even be at the start line. So then you're in the middle of a loop when they start, or try to get 2 loops in and start with all of them. Like, you start playing these little games with how you want to do your loops. And what I found also by this point, 11 a.m. and noon, was that no matter if I pushed just a little bit harder on a loop or if I took it just a little bit easier on a loop, my loops were 26 minutes. They were almost exactly 26 minutes, which is, in my mind, I'm like,
fast.
In my mind, I'm also like, that's 13 minutes per mile. I can run on, a lot faster than that on roads, or even on our training hill here. I was training at like 9.5 minute miles or something.
Sure, but you weren't going 12-hour pace.
Correct. But those things start to seep in where you're like, man, that's just really slow. But then what clicked in was Andy saying consistency.
So you're talking about kind of mental tricks and the things that you were doing. Krista Nucci in the chat room says, looped courses really challenge your mental game.
Yeah.
Ethan naming the hills was a great idea to break things up. Any other mental tricks you guys tried?
For me, it was not just naming items, but naming sections. So that rather than like just get to this thing, it was get through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that actually helped the time go by faster because I'm like, okay, I'm on Stupid Hill. Once I get to the top of Stupid Hill, then I have bobsled, which is what I called this little loopy downhill section.
Fun.
Yeah. So it became, and I knew that those sections, you hike up Stupid Hill, you run down bobsled, you'll go into a jog up Bertha. So you kind of broke it up into these little things and you knew kind of what your pace would be. And it became less about get to this point, and more about just get through this section, get to the next section. Or you really like Speedway because it's flat. So just get to Speedway. So those sort of things. That's like the mental game that I did. Did you do anything like that?
I was more focused on looking forward to the people I knew that were showing up in the day, and also trying to find my other friends and yourself that were also out on the course.
Yeah.
So I knew I had a few other friends and I knew kind of where they were. At some points I knew Gretchen was chasing me. So I kind of, just I knew that every once in a while I'd hear Bacon coming up on me. Bacon. Yeah. And I knew some family was coming around noon. I knew the afternoon people were coming, which had Justin and Destiny, our friend Barb. So I was kind of looking forward to more of those moments.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed to keep moving because if these people showed up and I wasn't moving, how dare I?
Yeah, right. Right.
I had a friend of mine drive there from West Seattle to come say hi. And I was like, if I'm not like moving still when she gets here,
it'd be an awful waste of a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My sister and her husband, my brother-in-law, they came out. We'd never really got a chance to run before, so this is a great opportunity for my brother-in-law to run some laps with me and Kim and also my sister. And so I knew that was happening at like 1 or 2. And then my good friend Brian Morrison, who from the movie A Decade On, which is going to be dropping in November. We're going to talk a lot about that in the coming weeks, and we're going to announce the release date and when you can get tickets to come to the premiere, which is going to be in Seattle on November 21st. So look forward to that. But Brian came, and so Brian and I were able to run a number of loops together. And we had our friends Justin and Destiny, who were going to start at noon to do their 6-hour. So we knew that we had people out there. Having those things to look forward to allowed not only the loops to go by, but you had something to look forward to. So rather than go, oh, that's only 3 loops away, you could be like, well, that's an hour and 15 minutes away. I can't wait to start. And maybe I'll even get to see them waiting to start there.
Right.
Maybe I'll see them sooner.
Yes.
So there are all these like little nuggets that you could hang out, dangle in front of you. It was really, really great. Andy Pearson wrote another haiku. Ginger's 3 hours in. The pain is just beginning. Ugh, that stump again. Another haiku for the ginger runner and mile long legs. He goes on with another one a little bit later. How many loops in? It doesn't matter. Keep running. But yeah, how many? Another haiku for the ginger runner and mile long legs. If you want to read these haikus, they're also on his Twitter, which is I even wrote this. Andy's hilarious. It was great to have him on the show last week. So after that low point for me, it became just about doing loops, and I stopped thinking about how many loops I would get in for the day. Stopped doing the math, and now I'm looking back in my mind, even now, I don't remember loops. 8
huge chunks, right?
8 through 18. I don't remember them. I know I ran some of them with Brian. I know I ran some of them with Brian and my brother-in-law Dale, and I know I ran some of them with just Dale. And I saw my friend Zach on one loop, and then Justin and Destiny. I remember these little things, but I don't remember any of the details.
Right.
And that is what's really weird, because you remember so many details of the loop, but there's this gap of time where nothing exists. There's like a general sense of fog of like, oh, there was maybe 2 hours with Brian. We talked about X, but I don't remember anything else.
Right.
It is the weirdest thing. And my mind didn't click back over into any of the loop-based stuff until the last, I would say, 2 to 3 hours. And that's when I really started to hurt.
And at that point, were you trying to calculate how many more you could get in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the last 3 hours, Brian was now, he like departed. I think it might've been the last 2.5 hours. Brian left me. He's just like, hey man, I got to go home. Got a birthday. It's like, hey, thank you for taking my mind off of whatever I was doing for 5 hours. So the last 2.5 hours, I started to do the math. my consistency was still on the 26, 27 minute per loop pace. I hadn't been getting passed by a lot of people. There was 2 women who were just flying. Yvonne, who's a Seattle runner, she's super badass. I've run with her before at Cascade Crest, and she does some incredible badass 100-milers and stuff like that. She ran in the morning, but I think she had a smaller window of time that she could run. I think she left before the end of it. She just tried to get in as many as she could. And I remember her passing me nonstop in the morning. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm getting passed by Yvonne. Why am I not moving as fast? And it was because she was doing the 6 hour, but a shortened version of that. So later in the afternoon, I was just like thinking in my head, I don't remember anyone really passing me a bunch. There's a couple guys that were just flying all day consistently, like headphones in, head down, especially in the morning. Yeah. And they were just clocking laps. So I'm kind of like, I had lost track of my loop count.
Did you ever go, so the way they kept track of the loops is
stickers.
Really cute. It's your names with stickers, so it's do a sticker every loop. Did you ever go and like count your stickers or look at your stickers?
Twice. Once before the loop that I took out with my GoPro. So I do have film from a loop where I go through and I name everything, and I talk to the camera about that. So I will be editing that and posting that eventually. Probably this week. I'll just do it for fun. So that was the final loop before the 12 o'clock start for the second 6 hour. So I took the GoPro out on that because I knew there would be less people out on the loop at that point. Less embarrassing me talking to my GoPro. Turns out there was a lot more adults walking their dogs who had no idea what the hell was going on. What was I going to say?
I asked you about if you went and looked at stickers.
Yeah, so I looked then to see that I was at 13 or 14 loops. I think it was at 14 loops at that point. And then the last 2.5 hours, when I finished my loop after Brian left, I looked and counted my loops, and I think I was at like 20 or something like that. So I knew that I didn't read anyone else's. I just looked at my own loops and was like, wow, 20. It would be really cool if I could get 25.
I peeled a bunch of yours off.
I figured. So I was already at 25?
Yeah.
Great. I like my mind was just mush. And I was like, oh, wow. How the hell did I do 20 loops?
Yeah.
I remember when I was told I had 8. But what happened to those other 12? So when I saw that I had 20 loops, I kind of did the math and kind of bartered with myself and said, just get 5 more. Just try to get 5 more loops. And you hurt. Everything hurts. Everything sucks. Your bottom of your feet, they hurt. Your legs don't want to move. And there was
brain is mushy.
Your brain is mushy. There's these 2 bridges. I call them the bridges of Madison County because they were back-to-back 2 bridges. That's really adorable, right?
I counted my steps over those bridges.
There was a staircase up and down between the bridges, and if I could run the staircase up between them, I was still good to go. And every loop over the last 2.5 hours, I was able to run it except for the last one, and that's when I knew that was my last loop. So it was awesome. The last 2.5 hours sucked, super painful. I didn't want to quit because I knew I only had 2.5 hours.
I saw you on your second to last. You were just about to finish your second to last loop, and I was coming up the short loop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like the Stairway to Heaven, I ran into my friend Zach, and Kim is also hiking up the last quarter mile, the last short loop. And I was standing there just talking to Zach, and I was like, oh crap, Kim's going to catch me stopping and talking. And as you came up, Zach and I were kind of finishing our conversation, and you and I just like hiked it in together.
Yeah.
And this was right at the last hour.
Yes.
And so here's what happened in my head, and I'm a little disappointed by it, but it altered nothing. So my last hour, I told Kim, I'm going to take my sweet ass time on this last loop. I'm going to walk every foot of it because I know that if I run it, even if I run a little of it, I'm going to be under 30 minutes, which means I'm going to have to do another loop. But
which is like almost as fast as my fastest loop.
I didn't want to have to start I wanted to know that I had 1 loop left, not 2.
And I think I told you at that point that Matt had already convinced me to do an additional full loop, and I was starting the short loop.
And I knew Matt would do that to me too. As soon as he saw me, and if he knew that the math worked out, even if I had like 20 minutes left, he'd be like, dude, you're doing a fast last loop. Do it. You're doing a fast last loop. So I bartered with my own mind and was like, we're going to take our time and hike down to the aid station, and then I'm going to walk the last loop. And the way I came to grips with it and kind of mentally got over my disappointment with myself was it would be a way for me to kind of say goodbye to all the things on the course that I had named and had seen 25 times or 24 times already. And my final loop was going to be my 25th loop, which to me was like solid round number.
And that's how old you are.
That's how old I am. I'm a baby, guys. I'm not. I'm much older than that. So my last loop, I walked. I have no shame in saying it. I hiked it. I enjoyed it. I looked at everything. I took pictures for the first time all day. I was able to live stream, but not take any photos. So I took photos on the last loop, a couple, and just got to enjoy it and say, you know, in my mind, kind of say goodbye to all the things that I had named and gotten really intimately close with and peed on. Not intimate, but like had special moments with in my own brain and had forgotten about for apparently 12 loops. But it was wonderful. So by the time I finished that lap, or the final loop, there wasn't even time for me to finish the short loop, which I was very thankful about. And it also made no difference whatsoever in my overall placing, which was 3rd place overall.
Yay!
I've never placed 3rd place in anything.
Podium. What'd you win?
Here's what I won, guys. Here's what I won. This is.
Sure you didn't win that?
This is the 20th anniversary series, Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer's Wolf. The animal is out.
Worth it.
Totally worth 25 loops.
Congratulations. You killed it out there.
I'm like blown away that this guy could do any sort of podium maneuver whatsoever. The fact that I got in the I don't deserve it.
You do deserve it.
If anyone showed up that day that has any like athletic ability, they'd like just crush it. The guys that like finished in front of me, the guys that got 27 and 28 loops, I don't know how they were able to do the additional 2.5, 3 loops. They even got a bunch of little short loops. Yep. I don't get it. And I also don't understand how guys like Adam Huey and Gary Robbins and the other women who have like incredible records on the course managed to get over 30. Like, it just blows my mind, because it not only is a difficult thing, the course itself, it is difficult, but the tedium and there has to be a point when you basically black out. Yeah. You just turn off for a long period of time. How long your mind can turn off for, I think, is where those champions are made. Because mine turned off for a good portion of time, but I knew when it clicked back on, and that was when I could barely walk. Like, my feet, everything just hurt. Like, I couldn't really lift my right leg and all that stuff. So,
congratulations.
I'm gonna revel in this for a while, because
As you should.
I'm a mid-packer, guys. Mid-pack elite. Pretty much mid-pack.
You're like elite now.
Oh, God. Full-on elite. Can't wait to get sponsors. I'm going to be...
Sour Patch Kids, if you're out there.
If you guys just want to give us a call. The Sour Patch Kids. Haribo. I would take a Haribo sponsorship any day. Or a beer sponsor. Let's do it. Let's do it up, guys. Big winner. Big thanks to Matt and Carrie.
Yes.
For putting on the event.
Huge thanks to Matt and Carrie. The aid station had everything we needed, and they are just the best people, the best faces to roll into an aid station on a race like this and see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Andy Pearson's haikus continued. 22 loops down, Ginger doesn't want a beer, he wants more stickers. A haiku for the Ginger Runner Mile Long Legs. And that could have been no truer at that time. Yeah. When you look at the wall of stickers, this was at 2.5 hours or 2 hours at that point. I think it was live streaming. That's what I was doing. It must have been live streaming. But looking at the stickers, you go, I could get another sticker. I want to do one more loop. You know, like, you kind of have that. Yeah. I want to add up more stickers. And he goes on with 2 more. The day is all done. The miles have all been run. Haikus shouldn't rhyme. That's it. On final congratulatory haiku for the Ginger Runner Mile Long Legs, except he has a bonus poem. One bonus poem. What's better than finishing? Finishing 3rd place. Congrats to the Ginger Runner. Thanks, Andy Pearson. That was a real fun event, completely unique. I highly encourage you guys to step out of your comfort zones and try something like this.
Do something different.
I'd regret nothing.
My biggest thing is, like, take the pressure off yourself and just do something. If it appeals to you, do it. This was one of the things I was like, we should do this 12-hour race. Okay, sign up. Yep. And
I didn't even think about it. And when Kim said she's signing up for it, I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
And I would, the day of, this happens almost in every ultra. That night, I was like, I would never want to do this again. I've seen that loop 25 times. 25 times in one day. I'm good. Now I'm like, fuck, I really want to do it again.
Beat your
yeah, because you have this great carrot that's just dangling, and it's not mileage and it's not time, it's loops.
And it's stickers. Yourself.
It's yourself. Right? It's like I set this, and what's great is like we did it in bad weather and good weather. Yes. So we could go back on a bad weather day and still have a better day. We could go back on a good weather day and have a great day. You just don't really know. It's not like the weather played a huge role in anything, because it does become like a mind game. Mm-hmm. But you now have stickers. Maybe I can do 25 and a quarter sticker. Like maybe I can get one of the half-mile loops, you know, like just it's your own battle. And I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys ever have any sort of desire to do something like this, or even if you don't, I highly encourage you guys to consider it. There are 6-hour options, 12-hour options. There are races like this all over the country too. Yeah. So if you don't want to travel, most every state has something like this. It could be around a track. It could be around a stadium or something like that. This is unique because it is a trail that is very difficult. And I think that's what helps it stand out amongst the other ones. So check out the Carkeek 12-hour or 6-hour. They also have the Cottontail 6 and 12 hour.
And they do advertise this as being the toughest 12-hour out there. Be afraid, be very afraid.
And we weren't.
I'm like, oh, let's do that.
Yeah, we weren't afraid. But I would highly say that you should be a little bit, because it is much tougher than you would think. The math does not equate. It does not equal a 50 miler, does not equal 100K or anything like that. It is unique. And I saw Adam Huey, who was out there that day. Mm-hmm. He came by within the last couple of hours, we think, to check on his course record to see if it was on had risk of being beat. But he was out there and he's like, so what do you think, man? I was at loop 23 at that point. I go, this like sucks, man. Like it just plays with your mind the whole day. He goes, dude, I ruined my first time running it because you just do the loop so quickly the first 2 hours because you think, oh, look at this. I got this loop. And it just ruined the rest of the day. And I was like, yes, consistency, right? He goes, yes, consistency. So Andy Pearson's advice of consistency, spot on. And yeah, I highly recommend it.
I tried to take that advice, but I also remember verbalizing to, I think it might have been Elaine. She was like, well, like, what's your plan for today? And I think I told her I was going to get while the getting was good.
Get while the getting's good.
And then if the wheels fall off later, I'll just put my big winter jacket on and just hike it out.
Yeah. You're almost guaranteed the wheels falling off.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, you did something wrong. If you are feeling good by the end of 12 hours, you didn't do it right.
I also think that later in the day, I just had this flashback that my mental wheels were kind of falling off a little bit, because I remember looking at my watch, and I'm pretty sure it was Matt looking at him and being like 2 hours and 20 minutes left. Do you think I can do one more loop? Like,
you'd start
good math.
You start bartering. If there's any last residual questions, pop them in now. I think Kim has pulled aside a couple of them. We're going to try to make this quick because obviously it's Halloween night.
It's getting late.
We have lights on, obviously, and we want these to be off so kids don't come because we have no candy. Awesome. We like kids. We like Halloween. We like costumes. We like all that, but we don't have candy.
We don't need these in, right?
We don't need these in.
I was gonna
just pick up
Gus because I felt like he should be on the show tonight as well.
Yes, please bring in Gus. So Kim has pulled aside a number of questions. Before we even get to those, I just obviously want to shout out a lot of people to give big thanks. Obviously, first and foremost, you guys, viewers, supporters of the channel, specifically Patreon. First and foremost, they basically made the trip possible for us to travel and do Carkeek. So everyone who's supporting on Patreon, thank you guys. From the bottom of my heart, the bottom of Kim's heart, the bottom of Gus's little puppy heart, we were able to travel up to Seattle to participate in this event, which is, thank you. There will be a video soon that we'll release primarily for Patreon first, and then we'll release it to the public. But if you have not, consider joining on Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. Every little bit helps, obviously, and it's like basically Kickstarter, but monthly. And we'll be posting a lot in November because GRVR is coming up, which I'm very excited about. So Patreon.
And my stuff finally.
And what?
My stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are going to want to miss Kim's stuff, which is happening very soon. We have lots of announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions?
No, I was going to say before the question, we had to thank people. So the first and foremost, Patreon. Second, obviously, everyone who watches these shows, every video on YouTube. Just viewing it helps, sharing it helps, liking it helps, obviously, help get the word out and stuff like that, and supporting us on all the social networks. Elaine, congratulations to you for getting out there, a supporter of the show. She was actually out there running, and
she was killing it out there.
Just kicking ass. It was really, really cool. Thank you, Matt and Carrie from Endless Trails. Great to see our friend Gretchen out there running as well. There were other viewers that were out there who we got to meet very briefly towards the end. My brother-in-law Dale, sister Heidi, Brian Morrison. Again, the movie A Decade On will be released later this month. There'll be more details on that. My friend Zach also came out for a little bit. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Adopt, Don't Shop. Also, we have to give a shout out to
the
Cavalier Rescue, because they took care of him while we were gone, and they just do the best job with their dogs. So definitely consider adopting and not shopping. Am I missing anybody before we get to questions?
I want to give a special shout out again. I mentioned earlier in the show to our friends Justin and Destiny, who just like powered through the 6-hour loop like nobody's business and let us dirty up their house.
They open their door. They do this every time we travel to Seattle. For us to save costs, they open their door to us and let us come and basically put our things everywhere in their house. So thank you, Justin and Destiny, who you've seen in countless Ginger Runner videos. They are just good people, and they were out there powering through. By the way, like award-winning costumes. Justin won the best costume at Carkeek because he was Gandalf, and like his. Go look at Glenn Takayama, who's a fantastic photographer. He has great race photos. Big shout out to Glenn. He took some great photos of Destiny and Justin, specifically Justin's costumes. There are some great ones. So if you go to Glenn's Facebook, they're all, and not all of them, but the link to all of them is there. Yeah. Check them out.
So Mr. Grumbles is going to go back into his
bed. I'm grumbly. Why'd you wake me up?
He's tired.
We're going to move into the post show where we'll answer all of your guys' questions. So stick around. I'm going to pop up the end credits, and then we'll come back here with your final questions. All right? Stick around, and we'll see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/thegingerrunner. Happy Halloween, everybody. Be safe. Don't go driving. And don't eat apples with razor blades. What?
Yeah, don't do that.
Ginger Runner. Sorry, I had to do it. I did it a couple times.
You did?
I don't know. It was fun.
That was my final selfie from the race.
That was Kim's final selfie from hour 12. Let's do some of these questions.
Sure.
I haven't even been able to look at the chat room.
Let's see. Costas asked, Ethan, are you going to run the New York City Marathon this Sunday?
No. I wish. I honestly wish. Last year I was really fortunate. I got invited with A6 to go run it, and it was hard because that was like a
Post Cascade.
Yeah, Post Cascade Crest 100, and I did not think that it would suck as much as it did. The experience, obviously, I've done the New York Marathon now twice, and it is incredible for road marathons as far as they're concerned. But I will not be running this Sunday. I wish. I really do.
Question from Joshua. Would you do it again? Same course?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
I'm also yes. And I think we talked about it right after the race, and I think we were both like, maybe the 6 hour. But now I'm more like, if I'm going to go do it again, I think it would have to be the 12 hour.
Yeah. We right after the race, we both decided, yeah, I would probably do the 6 hour again. Mm-hmm. Maybe Cottontail, or maybe come back and do Carkeek. But like now, a couple days removed, I'm like, no.
It's got to be the 12.
We proved that we can get through 12 hours of loops. We proved that our mind can like dull itself enough where you can enjoy it.
I kept calling it zombie running.
It's zombie running. I mean, I don't remember a chunk of my day, and you don't either.
And that's why I asked you if you looked at the stickers, because I remember going to look at the stickers at one point and like counting them, being like, okay, well, I got that many. And I feel like the next time I actually thought about it, I was like, what? How? Like, there's a huge chunk that was just.
I went from going like single digit loops, counting the sticker, or being told. So I think I was like, Matt, how many stickers? He goes, 8 stickers or something like that. And then I came through again, and you yell out your number and they mark you down. So I came through and I yelled out my number, and they go, keep going, man. 19 loops. It's great. And I remember starting that loop just going, 19? No. And I finally looked at my watch and did the math. I was like, 19 loops. That's more than I ever thought I'd ever, it's just, it's cool. So I would definitely do it again. Yeah. Which I never thought I'd say.
No, me neither. And
I'd be like, I'm over. I would never do 12 hours.
I hope Matt and Carrie are watching right now.
I don't know.
And they're like,
maybe.
They're already signing us up. We're signed up. We're doing it again.
Damn it.
The weather's going to be worse.
Damn it. I hope Cottontail's in the middle of the night. That'd be pretty cool.
I don't think it is. I think it's two different things.
And now, actually, as I'm thinking about that, I'm like, that wouldn't be cool.
Because all the pictures I've seen are all like
daytime,
like bunny pictures in the daytime.
Oh, because it's an Easter thing. Yeah.
Question from Ben Harris.
They hide eggs in the forest during that too, with raffle tickets and prizes.
Is that true?
That is true. Just so you know.
A question from Ben Harris. Ethan, has your race success rekindled your running mojo?
I saw that question. Yes and no, because this race was unique in that you were in control of your own destiny. Not that you're not in any other race, but you're never far from an aid station. It's not like you're not remote back country where you have to be really self-sufficient. You basically you could just like let things go and just move forward, which in most races that's what it should be. But the mojo for those big adventure races has just been a little weak. This definitely helped me realize that even though I had my confidence hasn't been there with my training this whole summer because of the knee thing, and it just was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to be at be as in shape as I was last year. This kind of proved that maybe you can still pull something out of your ass, even though you're not really happy with how your training's been going. So I was really happy with that. I definitely hurt by the end of the day and hurt well into the next day. So the pain doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It definitely rekindled my desire to do some bigger projects for sure.
Yeah, myself too.
Yeah.
Felt good to just be like, oh yeah, I can get those miles out.
Yeah, and it's similar how I felt after Sun Mountain 50 miler. It was just you get that done and go, oh, it's good to know that I can still do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And what I don't want to do is run an ultra every month. I don't want to prove to myself every month that you can still do a 50K because I know from experience and from other people that you do too much, you're going to blow yourself out. And that's the last thing I want to do. I want to continue to do this and love it. And this was a great rekindling of my love of pushing myself to where it hurts and beyond, and recognizing that is a really cool thing that we as humans have the ability to do. As far as hundreds and stuff like that are concerned, yeah, I'm sure 2017, I really want a Western qualifier again. I was not able to do it this year because of my knee, and I'm absolutely decimated by that because now I have to start from scratch. Same with like Hard Rock and stuff like that. I still have the desire to get those qualifiers and stuff.
There's a question in the chat room from Keith. Still trying to qualify for Boston next year. You're just speaking of qualifiers.
Yeah, so that might be my goal next year. Like, I think it would make a really cool video series. I think it would make a really cool project for me just with my own health and to see if it's even possible. Yeah. I've always just, I'm my own worst enemy, and I've always doubted my ability to do anything. Ultra is a perfect example. Like, never thought I could do it.
But you're doing everything.
Right now we're 4 or 5 years deep into the ultra scene. And it's like, okay, well, I've done a lot of these distances. I've only done 100 once, and I haven't done a 200 now that's a thing. But I'm like, well, what if I go back and try to do what my ultimate goal was always to do, and that was to qualify for a fast race. I would love to be able to say that I qualified for Boston. So yeah, next year I would look into doing something like that. What about you, babe? Is that ever on your? Boston? I mean, is that ever on your radar?
So far out of reach for me at this point.
So is mine. 40 minutes.
Mine is like, mine's hours. I'm sure it is.
I would add. Here's my challenge. I'm gonna put this out there for you. I think you just need to run a road marathon again, because I think the last road marathon you ran was so long ago. It was before your ultras. Yes. And I feel like before then you just didn't even know like how far and fast you could push yourself. And I think if you were to do a road ultra or a
road marathon was July 2014. That was my stomach.
Yeah, 14.
I think so.
I feel like if we chose one together and we just went out and did it again, just to see like how train for it, didn't overburden ourselves with some ultra beforehand or anything like that. I think you blow your own mind with how fast you were able to do a marathon now.
Yeah,
We'll see. We'll see.
A couple more questions here. Tadashi asked, would you rather do washing machine style loop course?
That's Javelina. Javelina is washing machine style. I believe it's 5 or is it 7? I actually think it's 7 loops. And it's washing machine style. I haven't done a washing machine style. I'm sure that's for bigger loops. Washing machine style might work better because this one was a small enough loop where you can kind of like zone out after a while. I don't know. I don't know. I liked it.
So I'll tell you, early in the day, I was like, I wish this was washing machine style because it was that kind of ominous.
Javelina is 5 loops now. Yeah, sorry. Ominous. Say your sentence.
Feeling of I've only done 2 hours. I have like this huge 10 hours hanging over my head.
Yeah, ominous works.
And I was like, I think I'm probably going to get bored of this. I wish it was washing machine style. And I remember talking to another woman that I happened to be running with. I was like, why don't we do this washing machine style? But that's exactly how I sounded. But then after getting into it, I'm actually glad it was not washing machine style. I think it was just much easier to kind of tune out and do that. Question for you. Did you listen to any music during the entire 12 hours?
No music. I brought it and was like,
right?
I'm going to want to use this. Yeah, I'm going to want to tune out and listen to some tunes and just think about, music. I didn't.
It's something happened in the forest.
Like you would leave for your loop and you would hate it. And then 20 to 40 minutes later, you'd arrive back and go, loop happened. All right. I never wanted to pull my headphones out.
No, mine didn't come
Didn't even want to put them in my ears.
Oh, people are asking what is washing machine style. So it's one loop one way. And
turn around and go the opposite.
And go the opposite. And then turn around and go the
clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. Just basically like that. It changes the scenery. You wouldn't think that going the reverse would change much. It's a completely different world. Yeah. And after doing this loop 25 times, I can verify that going the other direction is almost more difficult because the way the stairs are laid out, going up Stupid Hill, the way that we went, the stairs actually worked as stairs. Going up or Stairway to Heaven or down the Heaven's butt slide, the stairs are further gapped, so climbing up that it would be more difficult, and it was really steep and long.
Yes, I'm with you. I like the way it is, and I guess if we decide to do Cottontail, we'll experience it the other way. Kevin asked, did you finish the race feeling completely done, or could you have gone longer?
I actually had this debate in my own mind on the final loop, which I was hiking. I didn't run a single step of it. I hiked it and went, are you really needing to hike this? Or are you doing it so Matt doesn't tell you to go out again? Or are you doing it because you know that it wouldn't make a difference on where you placed and all that kind of stuff, and you can just now have fun? I would say, sorry, bring up the question again. Just make sure I get it.
Oh,
you deleted it. We'll go undo. Could I have gone longer?
Yeah.
I definitely could have gone longer. I didn't want to at all. I could have gone longer.
I'm with you as well. I think I could have toughed it out too.
But that's what it wouldn't have been. It would have been that same sort of uncomfortable feeling you get at the end of an ultra, where you're just like, all I want to do is get it done. All I want to do is get it done. All I want to do is get it done. And then you finish and go, that was great. A couple hours later, are you going to do a 100-miler? Are you going to do more?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, maybe. It's that same sort of, not regret, but it's just.
I mean, yeah, I would have loved to have gotten 20 loops. I hope Matt didn't hear that.
No, but there's like.
Next year he'll be like, remember when you said you wanted 20 loops? You still have time.
The thing is you push yourself at a certain pace. If you push yourself just too hard at the top, you could ruin your whole second half of the day. Or if you push yourself too hard in the middle of the day, then maybe you didn't go hard enough early, or maybe you're not setting yourself up for success later in the day. So I look back on the day and go, I did exactly what my body would allow me to do, and finish that last loop exactly when I needed to finish it. There's no way you could have done another loop throughout the day. I mean, that would have been another 25 minutes in the day that I would have had to cram in there. I look back and the only regret I have is spending the time that I did in the aid station, which was very little.
Yeah, you weren't in there very long.
No. Anytime I'd stop, it would be to refill my bottle, maybe change a garment, have a drink of Coke. I will have to go back and do the math of exactly how long I was in the aid station.
I think I definitely hung out there much longer than you. As I
I was
casually
trying
would
to
stroll
be
to the car to change my
Yeah.
shoes.
Yeah.
Speaking of shoes, there were a lot of gear questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a rundown of yours first?
By the way, our gear is still in our suitcases wrapped in plastic bags because it's soaking wet and muddy.
Yeah.
It's going to smell up the whole bag. Sure. Top to bottom, I actually wore my Where's Waldo costume for the first 4 laps, which was warm and delightful. Came with the beanie. But I wore the Territory Run Company hat for most of the day.
That hat?
This hat.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's great. Brett at Territory Run Company is amazing. Does really great gear stuff and has some really good new products. So definitely go check it out. Big shout out to Brett. So I wore the hat. As far as the tops, I wore a Run Steep Get High shirt.
What happened to that shirt?
I got a bloody nipple.
How bloody?
The worst.
Was it so bloody it dripped down and stained your number on your shorts?
It was so bloody. It dripped down my entire chest and turned my bib blood red. I think it's. Oh no! I put it in the suitcase because I didn't want to put it in there.
Yeah. TSA, why is there human blood in your bag, sir?
I can't believe I forgot to mention that. I have occasionally gotten bloody nipples, but it always ends on a warm day and I'm really sweaty and the shirt's too loose. There's some weird thing. I'm like, what a mistake. I know how to fix that. Let's not do that again. I didn't feel anything all day, but I got chafing where I never knew you could get chafing. The worst. And it was, because you're soaking wet all day.
Raul Borgia says Pixar didn't happen of your chafing.
Guess what? Oh yeah, of the chafing. No. I can show you my nipple, but I do not want to do that.
And the shirt, I washed it too soon.
Kim brought the shirt out. She's like, "Oh, all the blood came out," and I went, "I didn't take a picture to prove that I bled." But I do have the bib, and it's in this buried deep in the suitcases. But
so Run Steep Get High shirt.
Yeah, Run Steep Get High shirt. It was not the shirt's fault. It was purely because it was soaking wet all day because of the rain.
And you weren't wearing a pack to hold everything in.
Yeah, I didn't. Right? Well, yeah, so everything was a little loose and sloppy and wet. Over the top of that, for the first half for 6 hours was the Solomon super lightweight packable hoodie. You can see pictures on Glenn Takayama's photos of that jacket. I forget the actual name of it. It's great. Not waterproof, water resistant, not even water soaking, but really nice light windbreaker layer. Super light and packable. I mean, you can pack it down into your fist. It's tiny. So that plus my Pearl Izumi shorts, and then the Ginger Runner in Gingy socks, which will be coming soon, and Hoka in Speed Instincts, a new pair that I bought.
Second rain jacket?
Second rain jacket was the Outdoor Research.
I like to call it your Cascade Storm jacket.
It's my Cascade hypothermia jacket. It basically kept me alive. It was layer number 5 of 5 at Cascade Crest. Forget the name of that jacket too. As a gear aficionado, I don't
remember the name of that one either.
Myself
but
right now.
It is. I feel like one of the only. I'm tired.
Are you talking about the jacket?
Yeah, I think it's one of the only waterproof ones by company, Outdoor Research.
At that weight, it's super light and packable as well. So that's what I wore.
Any bottles, packs?
Ultimate Direction bottle with Ultimate Direction handheld strap.
Chuck ass Houdini jacket. No, not the Houdini.
No, Houdini's
jacket.
Patagonia. Yeah, so that's what I did. Tailwind for nutrition with goo. I did goos every hour and a half or so.
Helium.
Helium, that's it. The Outdoor Research Helium 2 jacket. Helium 2. Yeah. That's it.
And you said your shoes, yes?
Yeah. Hoka Speed Instinct 2s.
Yeah.
I brought along some Solomon kicks in case it got real nasty, but I didn't need to change. I've had some problems with the reliability of the shoes being durable. So this is a brand new pair of shoes that I bought from Seven Hills in Seattle, like days before the race. There already are holes in them. This is my second pair. You might remember on Twitter, I actually had to send the pair back to Hoka because they requested them. My first pair, my review pair, at mile 150 or so of that pair, I can put my hand in the shoe and the fingers stick out of 5 different holes. So I posted that on Twitter and Hoka saw it and was like, send us those shoes. We need to see what that's all about. And I sent him the shoes and I was like, I still love the shoes. They're still great. I can get a good 150 to 200 miles out of the pair. So I bought a new pair in Seattle and they already busted a seam. Yeah. We're going to have some words, Hoka. I'm super bummed about that. Okay, that was me. What'd you wear?
I wore a ginger runner costume.
Uh-huh.
No, but I did have a costume that never ended up on my body.
It was a good one, and we didn't even bring it back here to Los Angeles.
We didn't.
Kim dressed up, was going to, as Donatello of the Ninja Turtles.
I even handmade my... I can't believe it never ended up on me.
You spent so much time like making it. Really disappointed. Right. Donatello's the best.
Trail Sisters Trucker. High-low was all bra and flight tank. On top of that, I had for the first half. So I switched between 3 different tops, like outerwear, shells. So I had the Wazelle, it's either the Vim or Vigor vest and the Vim or Vigor jacket. I get them mixed up all the time. So I had those as well as the Ultimate Direction.
Stop honking.
Waterproof jacket, which I feel like saved my life in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I did wear that vest for most of the day with no sleeves.
Yeah.
Shorts was all Macrogas, and then I had the knee-high and gingies, and I've had a couple of people ask me where to get those, and I think they're available on the website. I've had those, I think, for a year or 2 years. I've had them for a long time.
Are they the compression ones?
No,
they're the regular ones.
Yeah, so I had those, and then I ran the first 20 miles in the Hoka Speed Instincts, and I was getting some weird top of the foot discomfort, and I switched into my trusty Challenger ATRs, which got
you through your 50 miler as well. Yep.
And then I had an Ultimate Direction handheld, and Honey Stingers was the only nutrition I did besides some main station food.
Aid station food.
Yep.
People are talking about that helium jacket. Yes, you can find it discounted now. It is great. It is waterproof. There are very few lightweight waterproof jackets out there. That's the reason why I bought that jacket, is because most are water resistant and tend not to be, especially after you wash them. It is packable. It is waterproof. But what I found with all lightweight jackets is that the pocket, you only get one of them, and it's usually a chest pocket. So whatever you're carrying is going to usually have to be up on your chest, and it usually bangs around and stuff like that. But I love it. And if you can find it discounted now, I think Running Warehouse, use the coupons and stuff in the description of this video. I believe you can get a discount on it. I think. I hope so. I hope they have it. I'm sure they do. Okay? I don't know. It's Halloween. Trick or treat. Could be some candy. Any other questions, or are we going to wrap this up? I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we can wrap this up. We're kind of going. We're going as long as the show would have gone.
Yeah, which is weird, because I was like, we're going to do a short show because we haven't eaten all day today, so we wanted to make sure that we grabbed dinner before the kid onslaught. Thank you guys very much for tuning in for tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, challenge yourself. Do something unique. Do something different. The Carkeek 12 and 6 hour races they're fun. I didn't think I'd say that about a loop course.
I had fun all damn day.
So I encourage you guys to check something like that out. Check out Carkeek or their spring version, which is a cottontail.
And you can find more information. You can follow Endless Trails on Twitter. It's at @endless_trails. So if you have questions for their different nonprofit, oh my goodness, I'm losing all my words.
We need to put calories in.
We do need to put
calories. We need to eat.
Reach out to Matt and Carrie. They will talk to you about any of their races if you're interested.
So that's it, guys. Really appreciate you sticking around for the post show. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. We did.
I almost fell off my chair.
Don't do that. We've still got more partying hardying.
And thank you guys for all your support as well, and words of encouragement and congratulatory messages.
Yep. Couldn't do it without you guys. Seriously. There's a lot of times when we really are just pushing forward because we're like, can't let everyone down. Yeah. So thank you guys. See you next week. Subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.